This is lesson 2.5, dividing rational numbers. And the learning target is to find the quotients of rational numbers. So we're not just dividing whole numbers, we're dividing fractions and decimals. You can see there's an example here. And you use the same signs as if you're dividing integers. If you have a negative and a positive, it becomes a negative. If you have a positive, positive, it's positive. If you have a negative and negative, it's a positive. So same sign equals positive, different sign equals negative. And you can't divide fractions, and so every teacher, I think, has a little different way of saying this. I do keep, change, flip, where you keep the first number just like it is. You change the multiplication, or the division, the division to multiplication, and then you flip the numerator and denominator in the next fraction. And then you multiply across, okay? So let's practice. All right, here's some examples of dividing rational numbers. And if you have you just got to figure out if it's going to be a negative or a positive, and then just do the division. You can look through example A, or example A and B. One is a decimal, one is a fraction. You can see how they did it, and you can follow that. But what I want to do is I want to show you, with the try-its. And I'll give you an example this way. So I'll do 4 try-its. Now, number 1, I know I have a negative divided by a positive, so I know that it's going to be a negative in the outcome. So I could just on my calculator do 2.4 divided by 3.2, 2.4 divided by 3.2, and that gets me a negative 0.75. But I want you to know how to do it longhand also. So I know I'm going to get a negative, so it's 2.4 divided by 3.2. I got to get rid of that, so I move it over 1, move that over 1, and then take it up. 32 doesn't go into 24 at all, so I have my 0. It goes into 247 times. So then 32 times 7 is 224. Subtract that out. Gets me 16. And I add another 0, bring that down. And then 32 times 5 gets me 160. And that zeroes out, and nothing more to bring down. So it is also negative 0.75. So calculator I'm fine with, but I also want you to know how to do long division. Okay, let's look at number 2. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Okay, number 2. Negative 6 divided by negative 11. It's a negative divided by 11, so it's going to be a positive. So I'll put positive right there. So I'm just going to go 6 divided by 1.1 equals 5 point, and on my calculator I can see it's 454545. So I write down the one part that's repeating, which is the 45. Okay. Now number 3 and 4, because they're fractions, you need to do those long division. I'm going to change to a blue color here. So number 3, I have a negative 6/5 divided by negative 1/2. Negative divided by a negative, it's going to be a positive. So now I can just do it. I keep the first one, 6 divided by 5. I change that to multiplication, and I flip that, and it gets me 12 over 5. And instead of having 12 over 5, I want to put it into a mixed number. 5 goes into 12 2 times, and it leaves me with 2/5. Okay. So that's what the answer to number 3 is, 2 2/5. Now let's do 4. I'm going to do this one as green. Negative 1/3 divided by 2 and 2/3. It's a negative divided by a positive, so it's going to be negative in the end. And I'm going to keep this one like this. Oops. Keep the 1/3. I'm going to change that to be negative. All right, change it from division to multiplication. And then this 2 and 2/3, I'm going to make into a mixed number. And so it's going to be 8/3. And then I have to flip the 8/3. So it's going to be 3/8. And then I could divide this side by 3 and this side by 3, cross simplify. And then it's 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 8 is 8. And I know it's a negative, so -1/8 is my answer. Those were somewhat simple calculations. These are going to be more complex. So you can look at the example where you have -10/9 divided by -1/6 plus 1. And you can see how they did all that. But again, I want to show you with the triads. I think that's more valuable. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this number 5. It's going to be -1/2 divided by 6. I want to make 6 into a fraction. -1/2 divided by 6/1. Then I know it's a negative divided by positive, so it's going to be a negative. So I'll just put that as a note. Keep that, change that, flip that. It's 1/12, and it's -1/12. Okay. Let's look at 6. Let's make this one red. I'm going to rewrite it. -2 and 1/2 divided by -3/4. It's a negative divided by a negative, so it's going to be a positive. Now I'm going to change this first one into a improper and keep it just like it is. So 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is, so 5/2. I'm going to change the division to multiplication, and I'm going to flip that one, 4/3. I'm not worried about the negative or the positive because I already know that it's going to be positive in the end. So now I just go across. I could cross simplify. Divide that by 2, it's 1. Divide that by 2, it's 2. And then I get 5 times 2, it's 10/3. And I'll put that into an mixed because it's improper. 3 and 1/3. And remember, it was positive, so it's going to stay as 3 and 1/3. Now, I'm going to erase these because this one is a lot more complex. So, and I'll make this one blue. So I'm going to rewrite it. -1 and 2/3 times -3/5. I got to do all of that, and then I'm going to divide it by 1/3 squared. Okay, so I do my parentheses first, so I have to do this first. So it's multiplication. It's a negative times a negative, so it's going to be a positive. I'll put a little P right here for positive. And then 3 times 1 plus 2 is 5/3 times 3/5. And when I times those together, I get 15/15, or I get 1. So now it's going to be 1 divided by 1/3 squared. Now I got to do my exponents. So I go over here. 1/3 times 1/3. That equals 1/9. So now it's 1 divided by 1/9. Make that into a whole number. And then I keep change flip. Keep the 1 over 1, change that, and flip the 9 over 1, gets me 9 over 1, which is the same as 9. So after doing all of that, you get an answer of 9. But you have to do some multiplication, you have to do some exponents, and then some division. Complex, lots of steps. Here's the self-assessment. Go ahead and pause the video, do 9, 10, 11, and then come back and see how you did. Okay. Not worried about doing number 8. Okay, let's do 9, 10, 11. Number 9 is 3/8 divided by negative 9/5. Positive divided by a negative, it's going to end up being a negative in the end. So now I just keep that, change that, flip that, and then I could cross simplify. Divide that by 3 is a 1, divide that by 3 is a 3. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 8 is 24, and it's a negative, so negative 5 over 24. Number 10. This one, because it's a decimal, I'm just going to do it on the calculator. It's a negative divided by a negative, so I know it's going to be a positive. So then I just type in 6.8 divided by 3.6, and that gets me a positive 1 point, and that 8 looks like it repeats forever, so I put the line over the 8, and that's my answer. All right, number 11, a little bit more complex. I'm just going to rewrite this one. Negative 2/9 divided by 2 2/5. It's a negative divided by a positive, so it's going to be a negative. So I'll put the negative right there. Now, I'm just going to keep this, 2/9, change that to multiplication, and then I have to make this into improper and then flip it. So 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12, 12 over 5. When I flip it, it's 5 over 12. Now, I could cross simplify, divide that by 2, gets me 1. Divide that by 2, gets me 6. So now 1 times 5 is 5, and 9 times 6 is 54, and I can't simplify that, and it's negative, so I come over here and put negative 5 over 54. All right, hope you did pretty good with those. Let's go on. This is a word problem here. We have a restaurant that launches a mobile app that allows customers to rate their food on a scale from -5 to 5. So far, customers have given the lasagna scores of 2.25, -3.5, 0, -4.5, 1.75, -1, 3.5, and -2.5. So I'm going to put all the positives together. 2.25, and then I'm going to put 0 over here. 0 is neither positive nor negative, but I'll put it in this area. 1.75 and 3.5. I'm going to put all the negatives. -3.5, -4.5, -1, and -2.5. So it looks like there's 4 positives, or 4, 0 is neither positive nor negative, but I'm going to put it in the positive. So 4 that way and 4 the other way. I'm going to guess that they probably should change the recipe, but I'm going to figure this out by getting the mean. So I got to add all my positives up. 2.25 plus 1.75 plus 3.5 equals 7.5. And then I'm going to add all my negatives up. 2.5 plus 1 plus 4.5 plus 3.5 equals a negative 11.4. All right, so there's a lot more negative than positive, but let's still find the average of the customer. So we add those together, and I see that it's a bigger negative. The absolute value of negative is more. So it's going to be 11.5 minus 7.5, and that gets me a negative 4. Okay, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'll divide that by 8. Negative 4 divided by 8 equals a negative 0.5. So the average customer out of 8 gave it a negative 0.5. If I was the restaurant, I would change the recipe. Okay, for our final thing for this homework is I want you to do this self-assessment for problem solving. There's 2 of them, number 12 and 13. Go ahead and read them over, give them a try, and we will begin on the next day going over these 2 problems together. All right, and we can talk about any questions you may have. All right, good luck.